Hello and welcome to the Venue Success Podcast. I'm your host, Tirza Caffey, and today I am continuing season 1 with my new friend and guest, Sarah Narcus. So I'm so extremely excited about our topic today, and we were just chatting a little bit before we hit record, and we share a passion that I'm so excited to just dig into with you today. But without further ado, you know what's coming. It is crazy stories with Tirza because people have lost their minds. So today it's because vendors have lost their minds, and they really truly have. So here's the story for you today. So we are very clear with expectations. Like, I think that's part of being a professional, is that we set the expectation. So any vendor that comes to our property, we have a different FAQ sheet for them. We have one for florists. We have one for DJs. We tell them where to park. We tell them when they could load in. All of the things where, the kind of DJ booth that we have for them. They don't have to bring their tables. All of those nitty gritty details. And we work so hard with our clients to have these really articulate and well-planned timelines, but I think sometimes with vendors, they think it doesn't apply to them. And so we even make them sign the darn FAQ sheet saying, okay, I acknowledge that I have received this and I will abide by these guidelines, right? Like, we're doing our very best to get people to play by our rules, and it's less about rules, but it's just like setting the expectation, right? Because every venue is different. It's the day of the wedding, and the load-in time for all the vendors was 2 o'clock. The wedding didn't start till 6. We do venue tours if we don't have a wedding in the morning, right? Like, weekend tours are gold because they're so hard to find. So my sales girl was there opening up the property for a few hours of tours before all of the vendors came. And all of a sudden, there is this man walking around the property. And our property is 5 acres, but we're a city venue, so it's 5 acres completely gated with a very tall fence all the way around the whole thing. And there's a man on the property, and she knows that she hasn't opened the gate for anyone. And she was scared. She ran inside, locked the doors up, and called me. And she's like, Tirza, someone's on the property, and we're just trying to figure out who could this person be. Well, they're dressed in all black. Let's just make an assumption that it's probably a vendor, but how the heck did they get in here? So we decide, okay, it should be safe for you to go out into the property by yourself and confront him. So she did. Probably shouldn't have done that in hindsight, but she did. So she goes out and she's like, hey, who are you? And he was like, well, I'm the photographer for tonight, and the gate was closed and I couldn't get in, so I had to jump the fence. And she was like, wait, excuse me? Like, you jumped that 6-foot fence? And he was like, yeah, I had to get in. And anyway, so he was very abrasive, very rude. I mean, extremely rude. And the funny thing is, like, we would have opened the gate and let him come in. He was like, I was trying to scope out the venue beforehand. I mean, I guess, the 4 hours before the wedding wasn't enough. And he just wanted to scope out the venue. We probably would have let him in, but he decided that it would be in his best interest to jump the fence. So I'm a very upfront person with people, and I believe that you don't let things like this sit for too long. And because these are vendors that you could potentially be having at your venue a lot, and they need to know from the very beginning, like a parent with a child, right? It's like you teach people how to treat you. When they brush up against a boundary, they need to know, oh, that stove is hot. So in this instance, the stove was hot, and definitely it was inappropriate, to say the least, what they did. So I called on Monday, just got through the wedding, and it's fine. Called the owner of the business on Monday, and I was like, hey, dude, like, this happened. I told him exactly what happened. And he just started cussing me out. I mean, F-bomb up and down at me. And it was so bad. Like, I literally left my office. I put it on speakerphone and got all my staff to come around and listen. And it was mind-blowing. Like, he was going off on me as a business owner. It was like he knew I was going to call, and he was like loaded and ready to go. And it went so poorly, I ended up saying, hey, listen, I'm not going to listen to you talk to me that way, so we're not going to talk anymore. And I hung up the phone because that's what I'm going to do. You don't talk to Tirza Caffey that way. So then he kept calling me back, and then he just started like harassing me. and telling me what a bad business owner I was. And I'm just like, it could not have gotten any worse. So, needless to say, here's what my little tidbit for you guys as you're listening is: you need to have a no-go list. You need to. Like, there are people that will cross certain thresholds that they can't redeem themselves. And I think they were one of the first people that I actually put on our no-go list. And they are not welcome back on our property ever because of the trespassing, number one, but also the total disrespect from one owner to another. And I think it was fair for me to ask his employee to not trespass. I mean, I think that was pretty fair to ask. So let me talk a little bit about just really shortly how we handle the no-go list. So basically, all of our clients, when they come in, if they choose to not use our full service all-inclusive package and they want to bring in an outside DJ, florist, or baker, they have to ask us first before they get into a contract with them. They have to send us their website. We have to know that they are a professional business, that they are licensed and insured. And we don't let frienders come. And a lot of the reason why is because liability. Listen, have you heard about the story where there was this guy that broke into someone's house and got hurt, breaking in to someone's house and actually sued the homeowner and won? That is the kind of world we live in these days. If that man had jumped our fence, and it's got all these spiky things up on the fence, right? It's not, it's supposed to be kind of dangerous. If he had gotten hurt, he could have sued me. There's just so many things that go with that where you're just like, you have to protect yourself. Every vendor that comes onto your property needs to be insured. They need to be professionals. And we don't do this friender situation at our venue. We don't, because there's just so many liabilities that go along with that. So my crazy story for you guys today is I'm telling you, it is okay to have a no-go list. And you're not going to necessarily go to that vendor and poke the bear and be like, by the way, you're on my no-go list. I don't actually typically do that. When someone contacts us and they're like, hey, we want to use X photographer, we tell them, I'm sorry, because of a certain situation that happened, they are no longer permitted at our property. And if they push a little further, we'll tell them why. I try not to get into that, but if I need to, I will. I don't want to destroy other businesses. I try not to. But they always listen to us. They always listen to us because they want the best experience. So again, that's the way that you kind of diffuse it. We have probably, 8 or 9 people on our no-go list, but none of them really know that they are. Maybe 1 or 2 of them know. And we tell them, hey, if it gets nasty, we're like, hey, listen, if someone comes to you and you find out they're booked at our venue, you're just going to have to let them know that you're not going to be able to do that event for them. So anyway, that's how we handle that. Crazy clients, crazy vendors, crazy everyone. So without further ado, let's talk to Sarah. And I'm so excited to hear your story. So introduce yourself, tell our listeners a little bit about you, about your venue, and let us just get a little glimpse into your life today.
Thank you so much, Tirza. And I have to say, I definitely resonate with that story. Anyone listening who's operating a venue or hopes to operate a venue, this is real. This does happen. Some version of that. Every weekend, I'm just like, really? You thought that was what you should be doing right now? So my name is Sarah, and I am the owner of a venue just north of Boston, Massachusetts here called Olio. We're in Peabody, Mass, which is right next to Salem, Massachusetts. So if you've ever been up this way, you kind of know what this North Shore of Boston feels like and looks like. And I started my venue just about 6 years ago. With my mom, which I'm happy to share a bit about that story. Before I even started venue and bought this property that we're in, I owned and I still continue to own and operate a planning company. So that business is called Without A Hitch. I started that just about 12 years ago now. So I've been doing that for a long time. And that was really the start of my journey towards wanting to own a venue. And I feel like that may resonate with listeners here, which is that I get approached by a lot of photographers and DJs and planners who say, I want to make that jump. I want to make that leap from what I'm doing now to the venue side of things. And I had this idea way back in 2016 that I had been working at all these other venues, and that was what kind of prompted me to want to launch my own. And I think other people really do feel that same way, of that experience of working other places and seeing how they're run and thinking I could do this, or maybe even I could do this better, or I could do this on my own terms, which is kind of what led me on that journey.
That's amazing. Okay, so just a nosy question, since you're a planner and me too. Um, do you allow outside planners to come to your venue, or are you coordinating all of those in-house?
We allow and encourage outside planners. And I will tell you that's kind of my approach to planning at this venue right now. And that may change in the future, right? So I think you have to think about where we are in the life cycle of the business at 5 years, 6 years old almost. And having lost a year and a half due to COVID, like I feel like we're still like a little baby venue, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
we will finish this year at 70 weddings, right? So that number just doesn't allow for me personally to coordinate every single one of those. And I would say it's very market specific. In this market here in the Boston area, almost everybody in the luxury world, or definitely in the hyper luxury world, has a planner. I would say already, like when they're going to look at venues, they may already have their planner. I never want to alienate that opportunity. And frankly, I don't want to coordinate every single wedding, every single weekend. So it is a really great combination of folks bringing in their own professional planner and folks choosing to work with me on the coordination side. So we really do leave it up to the client with very clear communication around what is expected.
I love that. So we're gonna have a series eventually, and I'll have to just flag you for future episodes. But we are gonna do a whole season about venues and family dynamics and people that have started their businesses with their families, because that is very common, very, very common. It's a really big investment, and so I think that's a big part of it too. And having extra capital, people backing you, but also a lot of these properties are legacy properties that have been in their family for a long time. Like I just was chatting with someone today that, they have this, huge piece of land that it's like, what are we going to do with this land? It seems logical to put a wedding venue on it. That is probably the most common thing that I see. And we're not going to hit on this too long, but just kind of briefly tell us about how you went about choosing the venue that you did to buy and what that kind of structure was like with your mom.
Yeah, I would love to. So I'll give you the high level, which is that because I have been planning weddings for several years already, I was the one who approached my mom and said, I have this idea. I think we should look at a property investment together. She was like kind of semi-retired. And so I was basically saying to her, like, I want you to run this with me. And I also know that I was in my late 20s. Like, I just knew I didn't have the money required, frankly, to do the kind of project I wanted to do. And like many folks, depending on what area you are in the country, here in Boston, real estate is a premium. So we knew, even when we started this process in 2016, that there was going to be a massive expense related to just the real estate part of it. So we did hire a realtor and then eventually a real estate attorney. We ended up buying a historic building. So this was not something passed down from generation. We really, like, over the course of 2 years, went out and looked at 100 properties and decided which one would be suitable for what we were trying to build in the budget we thought we could afford at that time. And at that time that we bought the property in October of 2018, we went 50-50 on two businesses together. And I think this is really key. Definitely could go more into detail when you get into that family dynamics piece of it. But there are two businesses. There is a holding company that is responsible for the real estate, and there is an operating company that runs the business. And at the time we started, we were 50-50 on both, right? That was the idea, is like we were both all in to either like fail or succeed together. And that worked really well for us. It was very clear what our roles were. We have an operating agreement together, as well as a roles and responsibilities document that we keep updated. We do, either quarterly or biannual meetings to go over that. So that has worked really, really well for us over the last 5-6 years. My mom, Ellen, has kind of stepped back from the business, like back a little bit more into retirement. So she has a very particular role now related to the like keeping track of our finances and kind of helping me to manage this historic building. But I get to kind of do that day-to-day piece and help us succeed. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it. And we definitely will circle back in probably season 3 with you. But In season 2, we're going to be talking more specifically about what you mentioned, and we do not have time to talk about this today, but the importance of having an S Corp and an LLC. A lot of people have no idea what trouble they could be in if something happens, and it's all about protecting you, protecting your assets, and just the liabilities that could go with that. There's a lot more I want to say about that, but I do want to say for being someone quite new in the space, good job. So you probably had some really great mentors to teach you how to structure your business to protect you and your mom, and that's really, so anyway, thumbs up, great job on that. So I see from your website, and again, like always, we're going to have your website, your social handles all linked in our show notes. So be sure and go and give Olio follow, because they have such a cool space, and I love the whole industrial thing. I've seen in the last, oh my gosh, I guess I'm going to say like 7 or 8 years, the rise. I don't know if that timeline fits for you. That's just, I'm thinking that's about right, of the rise in industrial, but also industrial luxury, and I've heard you say that. So tell me how you chose that kind of aesthetic, and how you're leading into the luxury market, and why you chose that word, because I know it's probably very specific. It's kind of telling me a little bit about your ideal client, obviously. So tell me a little bit more about how you chose that.
I'm gonna share that with you, but first I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this amazing building that we found. So when we came to tour this building, it was a complete mess. Like, really, I'm sure other folks can resonate with this, of seeing a property that is not in good shape and thinking this could be amazing, right? And this was not the first property we saw like this, but it was the first one that I felt like maybe we actually could take on this project within a reasonable price point. So the building itself was built in 1910 as a theater. So there's a really rich history there. The building operated as a theater through 1957. So they were doing many decades of live shows and movies. We found a lot of things during the renovation related to the film industry. And my strong guess is that all through Prohibition, they were serving alcohol and gathering in this amazing property. The building, they shut down the theater in the late 50s and kind of renovated the building, turned it into storage. And that is what it remained from the late 50s until 2018. So just imagine all of these decades of disrepair and neglect. That's what we were walking into. When we took everything out that had been left there from the storage era, what we saw was these amazing concrete walls, and they're very recognizable. If you go on my website, you go on my Instagram, you'll see them right off the bat. This building was actually marked as the first fully concrete building in the country. So we ended up with these historic walls actually having a historic designation. They're not protected, but they are special. And what that meant was that we could leave them open and exposed. Now, that was a key part for me of buying the building, of having this exposed concrete look to it. But it's definitely a challenge. Think about heating and air conditioning the space. Think about all the things that happen behind the walls of your walls. I don't have that. I have concrete that is exposed right to the elements, but the look and feel is there. And that's really what led us to kind of brand the space as modern industrial. We put in all of these modern upgrades. We did a lot of work on kind of the branding side of things and the finishes to make it feel modern, right? ADA and air conditioning and heat, really upgraded bathrooms. That's the modern piece in a historic building that has an industrial feel. And as you noted, that approach was very purposeful. It was in part filling a market gap here in Boston of knowing that it does not exist. It did not exist. And I was filling that hole, and also understanding what clients were looking for at the time. Yeah.
That is so amazing. And our whole family, really led by my mom too, has been into historic restoration. So our first house that we started the wedding business in was an 1858 historic home, Italianate, just absolutely gorgeous, in St. Louis, Missouri, and renovated that whole thing. It didn't even have electricity or running water when we moved into it, and we were using an outhouse. So listen, I understand historic houses and all the things we were living in a house that had asbestos in it. So like I feel you.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
share and all of the lead paint and all of the things. So but I think I love hearing about people that value history and protecting it, and that you have a little piece of protecting just that beautiful, first in the America. I can't even imagine first all brick building in America. That's bonkers. So cool. So cool. Okay, let's transition a little bit into talking about something that I know you're passionate about. And, you don't have a business if you don't have clients, right? So it's all about, okay, I have the vision. I could restore this property. I know that I'm a planner. I could produce these events. How do I find people? How do I compete in this big city market? How do I get visible? And so we know that it starts with a fantastic website but goes so much further than just having a beautiful website. You could get the people in there, but what you do with them is so incredibly important. So I'd like to just, I would love for you to just kind of share how you went about, your website process and how you kind of funnel people through that whole channel of communication from the moment they go to your website and do an inquiry through booking a tour and then booking with you guys. So I know that's a lot, but that's what we're predominantly going to be talking about today for listeners, is what that whole life cycle is like from website through booking. So spill the tea, my friend.
Well, let me just say to you, I cannot think of a more important tool in how I run my business than my website. And full stop. And I think to many folks that's counterintuitive. They think about the physical tools that they're using on site. They think about their CRM that they're using to manage their clients or their email platform. However, the thing that is most visible, that touches the most people, is your website. And I just really cringe when I see venues launch with a placeholder site, right? This idea that we're going to come back to it. It's important, but it's on the budget right now. Cut something else, right? This has got to be the top priority. And I will say, we were really kind of shy about how much this website cost to build at first, but it has paid for itself a million times over. So that's my message to folks starting out, is just thinking, or even just thinking about restarting the process of branding yourself, is that the website is critical. Whatever it costs to do it the right way, do it the right way. Because when we think about the website, I would call that my critical sales tool. Now, my sales team is very small. It's just me. I am the one who sells this business all day, every day. And I knew that when we started, eventually I'll hire a salesperson, but I knew it would be me for a while. And so I knew I needed tools in place that would expand my reach without me having to work at all hours of every day and night, explaining to people what we charge and how we work and what we stand for and our values and who we are. And so the website became a place for all of that. And I will say, the day we launched, the day I hit publish on that website, that was the same day I purchased the building. I was ready to go day one, right? It was backed into based on the process of buying the building and putting out the branding. And it was small at that time, the website. It had maybe 5 pages, right? It was a home and a history and about us, a gallery that had literally nothing in it right from day one. And over time, we have added to it tremendously. But the main thing that was always very important to me was conversion. And what that means is that when folks stumble across your website or get shared to your website, how many of those people are going from kind of viewing to converting to an inquiry? And an inquiry might look like a text, an email, a phone call, or even just a bookmark. Let me come back later to do this, right? In order to kind of get to that point, I had to begin to add content as I had it. And so we started with amazing galleries. We added a page we call Notoriety, where we put our published news articles and podcasts and things where we're featured, right? Testimonials and quotes from real clients. And now we've built it up in such a way that we have a full blog, which I call them resource guides, but pages and pages of resources for prospective and book clients, as well as just some additional amazing pages for book clients that are hidden pages. So those are kind of supporting the conversion, but they are a place for all this information to live, like a portal for our clients. And so that website services me day in and day out. And when I look at some of the analytics behind it and seeing the growth in views of the site, clicks to the site, and inquiries that come through the site, I continue to believe that that was the best investment we could have made from the sales side, better than any of those big multinational companies that we could have advertised with. All of that means nothing because every single person is going to visit your website and judge you based on what they experience on that site.
100%. So did you hire someone to do that for you, or did you do it yourself?
We hired that out. We had a branding guru who kind of helped us with our logo and tagline, who fully designed the website. She put it in a WYSIWYG platform, which basically just means that I wanted her to be able to hand it to me at the end so that I wasn't going to have to go back to her every time I wanted to add a word or add a page. So we personally use Wix, which has been really great for me. But there are lots of great platforms out there for venue owners. But for me, the critical piece was not to have it look like it was homemade. And I remember having this conversation with my mom, and this was 6 years ago before we bought the building. And she's like, "Are you sure you want to spend this money on this thing?" And I said to her, like, my goal is to attract, we're going to go back to that word, a luxury client. And they are looking at a luxury website. It doesn't matter if day one, that's who we're booking. That is who we're going to be booking 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line. And we have to start there. We have to.
Yes. And I see this a lot, and you and I are probably in all the same venue owner groups. I see it all the time, and people are like, no, no, no. Like, it's all about doing things the cheapest way that you can from the very beginning. And I'm literally sitting behind my computer. I'm like, I can't respond to every message like I want to. I don't have the time, but I'm like screaming behind my computer because I get so frustrated when I see people start these major businesses with a scarcity mindset. They're so afraid about spending money, and they're cutting money in all the wrong places. You know what I mean? Like, this is your front door. Your website is so incredibly important. And I love what you said about continually, it's a living, breathing thing. It's not static. I was actually just talking to a sweet venue owner earlier today, and I was doing like a website review, and I was like, "Hey, I noticed on your Instagram that your barn is open, but I saw on your website that it says that it's coming soon. But I think you opened a couple years ago." And she goes, "Yeah, we did open a couple years ago." And it was on the home page. It's coming soon. And they're a wonderful venue, but it was just oversight. And it's just like, sometimes it's like we aren't focusing. We get so, you hear the saying all the time, and I've said it here before, like, you're working so much in your business that you're not working on it, that you're just in the weeds of the day-to-day, and you're not pulling yourself back and being like, all right, I need to even pay someone to come in. And that's something that I do. Fresh eyes, unbiased, looking at it and saying, hey, listen, that word, like, no one knows that word. They don't understand the vocabulary, and so that's causing resistance. You know what I mean? So I love that you're talking about your website so passionately, because obviously I share that passion. So just to recap, you want a professional looking website that's going to attract the clients that you're looking for. So it doesn't end there. So talk to me about your call to action on your website.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll just add to what you said, Tirza, about fresh eyes, which is, this is my little pro tip for all of you listening at home or in the car, which is that every single time I have a new hire, but mostly I only have one employee who works for me. So mostly every semester when I bring on my new intern, I ask them, their first assignment is to read every single page of my website on their phone and on their computer, and to click every link. And I just had this hilarious experience with an intern who, my new fall intern who started, and she found like 6 typos and like 3 broken links of all the pages of my website.
So great.
And some of them have been there for years, and we've been through 4 interns. So it's just really important to bring somebody in every once in a while. And for me, that's several times a year, to read the whole thing, read it all, right? Look at it on your phone.
Yes.
And I think it's a really small thing to do, but it makes a huge difference. So for me,
love it.
For me, every single page of my site has a call to action. And that's like a general website advice thing that you'll hear out there for people building sites. But I would say, from the venue side, in a very crowded market, you're going to hold people's attention for a really short time, and you don't know what specifically may capture their attention. And so in the moment that they're like, this is of interest to me, you want to be ready right there to grab their information. So I have a quick contact form on every page that simply asks for their name and email address. optional is their mobile number. And at the bottom of the page, I just added something new. And this is what's coming up next in wedding venue ownership and sales, which is I added mobile number that folks could text. And I hear a lot of pushback from that from other folks who work in the industry. I don't want to be texting my clients. I don't want, that's not where I want to go. But I will say to you, and I'm sure that you can identify with this is how clients wish to communicate with you. So if you are doing amazing and you're not looking for new business and you're all set, then don't add a number to text. Fine. But when I talk to folks who are like, I don't know, business is kind of slow. I'm a little worried about 2025. That this is one of the critical pieces I would say to you, like, yeah, are you communicating with clients in the manner in which they wish to be communicated? So since I've added that, I actually use like a texting platform, right? People are not texting my actual phone. So that has helped me a lot. Right? To have that kind of balance, and it has templates in it that I wrote and stuff. But I will say to you, like, that call to action, the opportunity to text me, has been one of the most successful things I've implemented over the last couple months in terms of conversion. So something I highly recommend.
Okay, I'm going to pause right here and just give a little piece of education as well. This is something that we implemented also about, what is this year? 3.5 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you're always trying to get ahead of the curve with a lot of that, but there's all kinds of automation softwares, Dubsado, 17 Hats, Honeybook, all the stuff where you could plug in automations for emails. People's inboxes, listen, during the election right now, what does your inbox look like? It's insane. I probably 30 times a day I'm deleting, and I'm like, how did you get my email? It's so frustrating. So you are competing with massive noise, and they're not probably seeing it. They're just opening up their phone and getting overwhelmed at the amount of emails that they have. And so texting is literally gold. And they don't want to get on the phone. When I first started in weddings all these years ago, I don't want to say this, but there wasn't even email. So everything, there was email, but like it was mostly people just going to our website and calling us. And it was a lot of talking on the phone. But now they so badly want to text with you. And it is the fastest way to build rapport with people is texting. Oh my gosh, we could talk about this for so long. If there are a lot of people in this industry that are afraid of technology. I work with a lot of venue owners that are a little bit older. And so you're even saying things, being a little bit younger, owning a venue in your upper 20s, buying one in your upper 20s. Come on, snaps for Sarah. First of all, that's really incredible. But there are a lot of people that are very afraid of this tech. And so that, again, like, you don't have to be afraid of it. You have to practice and get people to mentor you, show you it's not as scary as you think it is. Or hire someone, an intern or something, that their whole job is just to be texting and booking tours. So I don't want to digress too much on this, but I just had to give you a big fat high five that I fully support it is what you're saying. So once you start texting with them, do you have, all of mine is fully like, there's a lot of automation built into my texting. So what is your main objective when you start interacting with someone through text messaging?
My goal is to get a tour on the books. And
okay, wait, say that again. What's the goal?
Get a tour, get them in the door.
Yes.
Come and see me. I have a pretty strong conversion rate from tour to booking. And if not conversion, I get really, really strong feedback. And so for me, I just know that folks will understand the property when they see it, when they feel it, when they're in it, when they meet me. There's nothing that compares to that. And so as opposed to offering a call or sending a resource guide, my first question is, congrats, I'm so excited for you. Can you come in on Saturday at 3 p.m.? A very specific date and time, right? And then we kind of go from there. But if I can get them in for a tour, there's a very strong likelihood that I can book them. So
what's your conversion rate? Tell me about that. I'm not big into putting too much pressure on this. I have strong feelings about it, but you said that you have a good one. What's your conversion rate?
I would say it's good for where we are in this market, in this economy, that I'm booking about 1 in 3 who come in for a tour. So my goal is 50%. Like that should be, I would like to book half. But given the kind of venue that I run, we are not full service. We do not provide in-house catering. There's more work that clients have to do when they leave. They cannot and do not sign on the spot. And so for me, that 1 in 3 number where we're at in our life cycle is very strong. Like I'm very happy about that. So if I can
Above
have,
average. Yeah,
yeah,
you're above average for sure. So
yeah,
good job. Yeah.
but like, on the flip side, it's hard to get people to come in for a tour. It's hard. Like it's hard to pin them down. It's hard to find a time that works mutually kind of for everybody. It's hard because I'm the only one giving tours right now. And so, and I have 2 young kids at home, under 5, right? And so I'm trying not to give away my evenings, bedtime. So this is the juggle of owning a business that is frankly not a lifestyle business. This like the business and life kind of conflict at times. And so getting the tour on the books is always the first hurdle, and every step of the lead funnel or generation process is always to that end. Come in and see me. And I do find that people, when they meet me, understand me as an established professional. They understand who I know, that the venues they've toured are venues I've worked at, right? And that gives me an edge over other venues, even if the venue itself, and I love my space, it's great, it's fabulous, but it's not everything. It's not. It has its pros and cons, but I can fight those just by being the person that people meet. So I just have to get them in the door. Yeah.
No, I love that so very much. So, and a lot of it too, when it comes to conversions, there's people, even a lot of coaches, consultants, educators in the wedding space that they get really obsessed with this conversion rate. And I'm like, well, what does that do for you? Like it also really depends on how many tours you're doing too. That changes the ratio, there's just so many factors in that. But one thing I just want to kind of riff off on what you said is that there's a lot of people that hide behind building rapport with people. And they're like, oh, I'm just building relationship with them. And I'm just kind of, I'm easing into it because they're afraid to ask them to come for a tour, or they're afraid to ask them for the sale, right? And there's a lot of people that just do a lot of unnecessary back and forth with people, and they're wasting a lot of time. And that's why I told you, say it again, it's about getting out there for a tour. Because people are going to buy when they find an emotional connection with a venue. It's more about the emotional connection with the venue than their pocketbook. A lot of times, if they fall in love with a place, if you could get a tear in their eye, they're almost always going to buy. I just said that for the first time, and that rhymes.
And it rhymes. And it rhymes. That's your new slogan. I love it.
I'm going to forget it in 2 seconds. Thank goodness we're recording. Anyway, but it's so true. Like, I know that if we can play music in our garden, that and it feels maybe a little manipulative, that's salespeople. You're trying to help people have an emotional connection to your property. And when they do that, they're going to be so much more likely to buy. And you can't do that through a screen. There's a lot of people that are pushing these virtual tours. You need to have one, and there's a lot of people that are doing destination weddings. We'll talk about that one of these days on the show. But if they are around and you know that they're within 30 to 45 minutes, don't have that be an option if at all possible, because it's going to be a harder sale. It's so much easier in person when they can feel your energy and you could shake their hand and have some type of physical connection with them in a non-creepy way. It's so much easier to get that booking even day of than doing a Zoom call with them, doing a virtual tour, and following up with them for the next month, So I love this. Talk to me about your tour. So I know we just have a few minutes left and you have another appointment to get off to, but talk to me about, so you have a really fantastic close rate. Why do you feel that you have such a great conversion? Like, where is that happening in the process? Are they just kind of naturally falling in love with your venue and telling you, I want to book? Or how are you pulling that out of them?
I shifted things in a big way about just over a year ago. So picture me in the summer of 2023, like peak of inflation. People are really nervous about kind of what's coming, what expenses are, even the election. Like people are really in a weird place. And I'm looking at my 24 numbers and I'm like, like we are only in our 5th year, and why would, like, we had this little boom after COVID and now we're seeing a little bust here, and I have to turn this around. And what I decided to do over the course of several months in writing some resource guides and coming up with a new kind of strategy for approaching prospective clients is when they book a tour, I send them a whole bunch of information in advance of the tour. Now that may seem silly to people, like, well, why wouldn't you wait, sell them, and then send them the information? But frankly, like, I don't want to waste my time the same way I don't want to waste their time.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I have pre-qualified my leads in a very particular way before they cross my threshold. Now, does everyone read everything I send them? Definitely not, but I've sent the budget guide. I've sent the options for catering. I've sent an overview of kind of how to plan. I've sent our FAQs. I've sent a whole document, a whole resource guide I wrote about our location and why it's a great spot to be in. So that there's no surprises about the parking or about the, anything else when they come in the door. So they are predisposed. They are pre-educated the moment they cross my threshold. That is like step one. They already have information, not just like from the pages that are public on my website, but other pieces of information that I've sent them, right? And then the tour itself is not, frankly, very long or that important, honestly. Like it's important for them to be there and to be present in the space. But the tour itself, I could tell it to you right now in 7 minutes. It's just not that big of a deal. It's about me listening to the client, hearing what they're looking for, and helping them, to your point, envision it. And when you have a blank slate venue, the way that I would describe our space, the listening piece is so much more important than the talking piece. Because if you hear someone saying, really packed dance floor and I want it to be like all night, like a rave, like you're going to show them a different picture on the iPad or give them a different picture in their head than you hear someone saying, like, you know what, we're not big dancers, but we love to game, right? And we want a nice dinner environment. Or the next client coming in the door saying, like, we go to bed early, we have a 1-year-old, we want brunch, right? Those are 3 different approaches. And my response to each of them is like, I've got the perfect space for you. But you can't sell that unless you hear what they're talking about. So I think that that's where the sales expertise comes in. And I'm not trained in sales. Like, this is not what I went to school to do. But when you love something, when you built something the way that you and I did, like it is very easy to sell it, because truly from the bottom of my heart, I love to help people envision it. There's nothing I love more. That is the core of the tour. But I will say, I budget 45 minutes for each tour. So we're one contained property. We don't have a big outdoor space the way other venues do. So the tours themselves are usually right around 30 minutes. Folks know that if they're late, I'm going to cut them off early because I'm about to go do another tour. So there's a scarcity effect there. And it's real. I really am giving 5 tours back to back most Saturdays, right? And so that also kind of leads to folks being like, well, let me get the most out of this moment that we're with Sarah, that we're kind of together, because she's about to go do this again with the next client that walks in the door.
I think what you said about the scarcity mindset is so fantastic. And it is the reason why I don't put our availability, our wedding availability on our website. Because people don't know. Like, and if there are specific dates that I'm like, right now, I've been teaching this with my coaching group, is like, you guys, here are the specific months that you need to be selling right now. They may come in and they want October of 2025, you and the rest of the world. But if you are a great salesperson, somehow they could leave booking March, because you're just so great at your job. So they don't know that March may be a really lean month for you. They could be like, I'm never saying lie, absolutely not. But you can strategically steer people towards certain dates if they feel afraid that, oh my gosh, like, I might not get this, like this might book up if I go look at 5 more venues or whatever the case may be. I want to just close I would hire you, first of all, because you are so articulate. You are so great at your craft, and I could see it, and just so quickly. This has been amazing. I talked to a lot of venue owners, and I just want to say, like, most people 5 years into owning a business are nowhere near where you are in your expertise. And I think a lot of that probably came from the fact that you aren't new to the wedding industry. You are a wedding planner. You understood what you wanted and what you didn't want from the very beginning, which gave you definitely a few steps ahead of other people that are coming in. But I hope that as people are listening to this episode, that you have gleaned some little nuggets of just education and inspiration. But I commend you, because I know the things that you're saying, neither one of us are trained in, like, I have a music education degree from a Bible college,
Really
like,
helpful.
it didn't really help me at all in my career.
Yeah, that's so funny.
But if you are passionate, like you said, if you are passionate about it, you can learn these things. You could learn how to handle the wicks, and understand how to look at your conversions and all this kind of stuff. Don't be afraid of it. You just kind of have to jump in and figure it out as you go. And I didn't want to end today without telling you great job, because it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work. So
this is a labor of love, as you know. Like, you didn't ask me the question, but I'm going to answer it anyway, which is like, what would you say to people who are thinking about starting a venue? Like, my joke, but my first response is like always, don't do it. Seriously, don't do it. I feel like this is a really difficult path, and I don't want to like end at 45 minutes saying, having folks think that it's not. Like, this is not a path that I thought I would be on in this exact way. I wake up every day and think like, this is going to be a long day. Like, some days this is going to be a hard day. Like, this is the juggle, the balance, owning a historic property, dealing with difficult people, vendors. The whole thing is really, really hard, right? So I just would say, like, it's not like a thing that you just do on the side. Like, this is everything, all day, every day for me.
And it's not we had someone, Amelia was on a few episodes ago, and she was talking about, hey, y'all, this is not a retirement gig. Like, it's just not. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to retire and then I'm going to live my dream and open a venue. And it's like, that is like the worst mindset, because it's not a retirement gig. She told me in that episode, she's like, this is the hardest work I've ever done in my life. And she was like, I never would have done this when I had little kids. And so you are, on top of all the things that you listed, being a mom of kids under school age is really, really hard. And, making family a priority and all of that jazz. So this show was never intended to be a downer, but we want to be really realistic to you. That's why I started this. I want to pull the curtain back and let you see what the sleepless nights and what the hard work and the incredible financial investment, and even people building a venue from scratch, and how there's 20% on average unanticipated expenses on top of what they thought it was going to be. And it is just really, really hard. And we're in a market where there is oversaturation. In most markets, there's oversaturation. Everyone's out there living their dream. Go for it. But to what you were saying just about the amount of work, I'm seeing that there's about a 3 to 5 year lifespan right now of people. If you're in any of these venue owner groups, people are selling their venues like gangbusters, and they're not old venues. They're like, I did this for 3 years and holy beep, I cannot do this. I cannot do this. I have a full-time job. I thought that I could do this part-time. Like, what? You must not have done any research about this industry before you pull the trigger on that $1 million property that you bought, So it is just a lot, but it's worth it. It's rewarding work. We're building legacies. We're building generational wealth, hopefully, and we're creating something that is so beautiful and magical, and it is worth it. So
it's the dream. Yeah.
It really, for some, and it has to be the dream, and it has to be the passion in order to make it work. It cannot be a side gig. But thank you, Sarah, for being here today. I really appreciate it. Be sure, listeners, to subscribe to my channel to be notified of future episodes. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please just click the link in the show notes to apply to be on. But again, thank you so much, Sarah, for being on today. And we'll see you on the next episode. Talk to you later.
Thanks, Tirza.